Okay, we are
Okay.
live. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Unstoppable Live. This week we have a very special edition with a very special guest who you can see on our screens, who's come to join us today. And we will introduce Carter in a few seconds. Um, and today, what we will be looking at and thinking about is this question, which is what is something that you love so much that you can't stop thinking about it? It's going to be a great show today because we have a great guest who has actually chosen that question to to talk about because it fits in to what he's up to at the moment and fits beautifully into how he actually lives his life in the very short introduction which we've had just talking before we came on the air now. I started getting a little bit of a window into Carter's life, and he has his own obsession, his own ideas. So I'm going to hand over to Mo, and she can introduce our guest and yeah, lead us down into a few little questions um, about yeah around our subject of today.
Well, so first of all, thank you very much, Simon. I don't know, I'm always fidgety on Saturday, but I'm so excited about this topic because I think, as you said, Carter, our great guest here, is such a perfect example of what it means to really identify very early that you have something that you're really fixated on or that you're obsessed about. So, first, I'd like to introduce everybody to Carter and say, Carter, welcome. Thanks so much for joining us. It's great to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. This is exciting. I've never done any sort of live stream thing before, so this is really exciting.
Let's
First,
go.
so let me just give everybody a teeny tiny, very mysterious little peek into who you are and why we have you on today, guys.
Hmm.
Carter is what we would technically call a young adult. He's a very young adult and already a real estate agent. And it's so fascinating because when I learned about Carter and he and I had our first conversation, I learned, and even today, speaking before this episode, learned that very early Carter knew that he wanted to do some pretty big things. So we're super excited to introduce Carter to you. And Carter, what do you think? We've got some questions that we kind of thought we might like to discuss. We could just
I
go ahead
can't wait. I've got my board and my pen. I'm gonna be taking notes because this is going to be inspiring.
notes, take notes. Everybody pull out your pen. You're going to get
Yeah, pull out your pens, guys. There's going to be some gems today.
Meanwhile, Carter's like, no, stop, stop. Okay.
Well, I sure hope so. I hope I'm inspiring. Let's hope
Yeah,
so.
I think it is. You definitely are. So, the first question I have for you, for the sake of those listening, because I just said you're a young person and you're already a real estate agent, but could you, since you, I mean, like a blink ago, you graduated American high school. Okay, so that puts you just past 18ish, right? Like,
Hmm.
the numbers don't really matter so much, but the question that I have for you is just take us a little bit back to maybe when in the world did this all start? How when did you know that you were going to be doing real estate? Like, it's a little unusual for somebody to come out of high school and already be doing that. So could you tell us how
Hmm.
you got started? Where did it come from?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, first of all, I've always known that I was going to be successful. I always knew I was going to be exceptional, and I still do know that I will be at some point in the future. Probably ever since I was in first grade. That's probably it, which is I probably would have been 6 or 7 years old. I always had some sort of obsession with my future and what that was going to look like, how successful I was going to be, all what I was going to be able to do for everyone surrounding me and around me, and what I was just going to be able to do for the good of in general as just an adult and what I was going to be able to do in my future. What got me into real estate, I would have been in seventh or eighth grade, which I would have been like 12 or 13 years old when I got into the actual real estate. And I had an obsession with investing into real estate, which is still a goal of mine, which I will still do, and I will still do on a very large scale at some point in the future. But I that is when I got into real estate. Now, what got me into that was I was again seventh or eighth grade on YouTube or wherever I was and came across like a Grant Cardone video
Yeah.
of him with a private jet or something. I don't, I think it was his jet.
It's your next
And I was
beauty.
like, well, that's what I want, you know? And I I knew that that was the way that I was going to get there. That was what interested me. And I was like, real estate fascinates me. So that's the way I'm going to go. So then I started learning about real estate all since I was probably in starting high school. Before that, even in middle school, I was interested in it and watching YouTube videos on it. And there's other people on YouTube that I was watching that had been real estate investors and got me interested in it. So yeah.
Can I
So
just
before, go
Can I just
ahead.
cut in really quickly?
Go ahead.
Because I get the feeling like a number of the younger listeners might not even know what real estate is. It's just kind of like a bunch of words that, can you just really quickly tell us what is real estate? And just to clarify that a bit.
Yeah, I mean, well, real estate's there's a lot to it, and that's actually one of the things that got me so interested in it because there's a lot of different ways I can and paths I can take in the real estate world. Um, but real estate essentially, I mean, there's it's land. It's the land that everything revolves around it. It's the land that these buildings are on. It's these buildings. It's everything. There's commercial. There's residential. But essentially, it is the property that people own. That is essentially what it is.
Okay, so it could be
The land
buildings,
that people own.
houses, yeah, businesses, land, like all that. Cool.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thank you.
that's such a great question, Simon. And thanks for pulling that out because, hey, maybe someone hasn't thought about it, which is kind of thinking about bringing me to my next question for Carter, because very often when we're going through grade school, whatever, wherever we are in the world, we are thinking about the sciences or we're thinking about, careers where we need skills for communication, like reading and writing, and we're thinking about becoming book writers, or we're thinking about becoming lawyers, or we're thinking about becoming doctors, or we're thinking about being a nurse or teaching school or doing some, careers that our school skills directly prepare us for. But somehow your role, it uses all of those things, right? Like with real estate, would you say you've got to be good with communication? You've got to be able to be strong in math. You need, a good brain and a good education. But it's a little bit different to be thinking about property ownership and helping people with that. So my question for you is, if you could remember back to when you were a seventh grader and like what all the kids around you were talking about, if they were even talking about what they're going to be when they grow up, like were there many people in your circle who also wanted to essentially do something more entrepreneurial and be in the business of
Great question.
buying and selling
Mhm.
property? Like, was that common back then?
Definitely not at that age. That's for sure. And even like even up into that, like I never really met anyone my age that had an interest. I mean, there were people that had interests in being successful, but they didn't really know what they were like, yeah, I'll be like a football player or something. And I never had interest in
Right.
that. And I never, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't something that for me, now I don't like to go and tell people that their goals are unrealistic because, people to a lot of people, my goals are unrealistic. But if you look at and break down the actual odds and the actual numbers for what other people want to do, like or wanted to do at the time, like be a professional, be some sort of football player or whatever. I have a much better odds at, at achieving what I want to do. Not to make it sound, not to make it sound like cocky or anything, or even like anything like that. I'm shooting for my goals. I'm working really hard for it. And I mean, there's, people could be doing the same exact thing I'm doing, and one of us could make it, and one of us might not. It's fine. But people had a very different outlook at how that would look like for them. What their professional life would look like, what their success life would look like. and whatever. I was like, well, I want to be a businessman, you know? I want to build something massive. Um, and even originally before real estate, I was obsessed with computers. I was like, oh, I could build an app or something. You know what I mean? And I built my first computer. I was like, I could start doing this as a business. So I thought about how much it would cost to, buy my first parts for my first computer that I was going to sell, how much I would profit, how I would do it, where I would sell it, and all that. But then, I was always interested in different types of businesses at that age. So I think I was very different than all the people around me. I think I don't think I ever met anyone up until probably high school that also had an obsession with being wealthy. And even then, the people that I would meet in high school that had an obsession with success, um, I don't think they really had the drive and what it took to actually take action and, you know, follow the course of success. I think they still wanted to go a different route, which is fine. But they say one thing, want one thing, but take action on it in another way. So, I decide that I follow through on what I say in my goals, and that's what I think sets me apart, makes me a little bit different than everyone else.
I love how you speak about what you will be in the future because you're already remarkable in this respect that when others are like, yeah, one day I want to have a big life and be successful. And you're like doing the math. You're like, okay, so let me see if I can make sense of this. When I add all of this up, there really aren't great odds. And I
Hmm.
like the other thing that you said about you kind of were in this creation mode. Like, what can I make? Right? Like,
Hmm.
I love computers. How can I use this? What can I do to help with people? This is great, but then when you got this obsession with real estate, I'm guessing you started like doing calculation in your head. You're like, "Wait a second, this makes sense. When I sell property, I make money. I use the
Hmm.
money, buy more property, I sell more property." Like I love that your brain is thinking in terms of like steps. And I
Hmm.
with children for a long time. I've worked with young people for a long time and I'm an adult myself. I think sometimes like what you speak of, we can have this big dream out into our future, but if we don't ever calculate like the steps that we think it'll take to get there,
Hmm.
then it literally just stays a dream, something that we think about. And it sounds like you set a goal and maybe you're doing something along the way to like start trying to figure out how you can go in that direction. I mean, am I guessing right about you or
Correct. Yes. And frankly, I even one day I think I need to do one thing, and then maybe a year later I realize that I need to adjust my course to get to where I need to go. But I know exactly how much money I need to make to live the lifestyle I want to live. I've done the math. I've added everything up in today's what things cost to comfortably live that lifestyle. Um, and yes, I've done the steps. I've worked backwards. So what do I need to get to own, the private jet, to own the yachts, to own the different things? Um, so yes, I've worked backwards. I started at the goal and I worked backwards with each step and where each milestone is and where I need to get. My first step is to build my first sustainable business, which is what I'm doing now. And that's my first goal. I even think I at one point had my goals, and in retrospect in the future my goals right now might even be like the steps to get to my goals might be too small, but looking back at 2 to 3 years ago, the steps I had to get to where I am now, or not even where I am now but where I want to be in the next 1 to 2 years, um was way too small of steps. I would if where I want to be in the next 1 to 2 years would have taken me probably an additional 3 years, um, if I went the route that I was looking back in retrospect about 3 years ago. Um, Only because I wanted to go to a trade school and get a 2 year degree. And it wasn't even, it was, I wanted to get an associate's degree in architectural technology, work at an architectural firm, because I always had an interest in that. Um, and then I was gonna, save up as much money as I could, making however much money I would have been making, and invest that into real estate. But that would have been a much slow. I wanted to get into the business now. I want to learn what I can learn because
So now you
if
come
I,
out and gone straight for the straight for the jugular, like straight into the
yeah,
action.
yeah,
Yeah,
I went
yeah.
straight for it. I was like, you know what? I can get into the business. I'll learn as much as I can learn. I'll build my business as big as I can build it. And,
Love that.
it'll help me in the long run. I'm gonna be, I think, more successful this way. I think it's the harder route. There are days that I wake up in the morning and I'm like, well, wow, I could be, going through the motions, collecting a paycheck, going through the motions, and then focusing on investing in real estate. But I look at the life that I want to have, versus the life that I could be living if I went the slightly easier route, and it doesn't make it worth it. So that's what keeps me, I'm like, oh, I could be going, this could be easier. But first of all, I love what I do. So I think I would constantly be living in, well, I could be doing this right now. I could be out building my business, building something, hustling every single day. But I'm sitting back, you know, um, and learning about architecture. I would be currently in my first year of college right now. And I don't think I would be able to, knowing where I'm at now, I don't if I were to go back in time, I don't think I'd be able to like be satisfied if I went that route.
Yeah, I think what you say is so interesting because back to what you were talking about with sometimes remembering back to when you were in grade school that people around you'd be talking about they want to be a ball player or they want to, have success or do this and do that, but not necessarily working backward and figuring out what the steps are to get there. I think it sounds to me like the way you're approaching first thinking about how do you want to live and then what's going to make sense as a way for you to get there, that's a part of like maybe the secret sauce that you've got that's helping you keep moving forward because like you said, you don't know the path, you don't know the exact steps you need to take to accomplish the dream, but because you made some steps, you did outline a plan, and now you're
Mhm.
looking at a year or two later and you're saying, well, I could see how those steps weren't the right steps, but you figured that out, and you were able
Mhm.
to figure that out because you actually worked backwards, made a plan that you thought that would work for you, and got started. You started taking the steps, and then the steps didn't make sense. I'm guessing you had started looking at the architectural school, started thinking about the programming, started like weighing out that, and then something inside you were like, wait, Carter, do we want to go to class or do we want to like get started now? You just told us at some
Mhm.
point you pushed all that stuff off the table and you're like, I'm going to go straight for the real estate piece. So here's my next question for you, okay? Because I'm a former educator, 24 years teaching and leading in public school, right? And I know how the system goes. You do 13 years, if you finish the whole thing, you do 13 years of reading, writing, math, science, social studies, and a couple of fun classes, okay? They don't teach you any of the stuff for finance. They don't teach you the stuff for real estate. Like if you go to a really good high school, sometimes you get like a basic introduction to economics. But I mean, it's not anything you can build a business on. So my question for you is, while you were a kid who finished high school at whatever you got A's, I don't care, like whatever grade you got is fine. Were you studying real estate on your own? How did you like keep up your energy and your focus toward this other thing that you knew you were driving toward while you were doing that? Because I think sometimes kids have trouble with that. And it would be
Mhm.
cool to hear, like, what was it like for you getting from middle school to high school with all that reading, writing, math, and regular curriculum? And then knowing that you were driving toward this focus because you certified like almost immediately after high school in real estate, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, actually thinking back, I think I was even licensed before I officially graduated high school.
Fantastic.
Um, which is actually pretty cool. But it took me probably longer than it needed to because I was in high school while I was studying for that exam. And it took me long. I was just, sidetracked. I was in high school. I was in my senior year. I
You had to
probably
go
could have done it much quicker, but and there was probably ways I could have learned better. I was never a good class and book learner. I was a learner by
yeah.
just being trial and error and failing. That's how I've always been. So for me to be studying for my real estate exam, which is very book material, it's just, you're learning the basics, and they don't really teach you about the business itself. They just teach you the terminology and the different like this and that. That a lot of it isn't even like once you get your license or you go for the test, you're like, man, like I studied a lot of that, or at least I mean the questions are all random, but I was like, man, a lot of that was like not I didn't even need to know that. I mean, although it was important and it was important later down the road, but a lot of it I just learned better and understood it more after I had gotten my license
Mhm.
and actually went through through that system. But I mean, yeah, being in high school, a lot of it was just watching a lot of YouTube videos. I know it sounds pretty counterproductive, and counterintuitive because you're like, oh, you're being pretty unproductive there, just sitting there and watching social media. But I mean, if you're watching some sort of educational YouTube video, like a person I would always watch was Graham Stephan. Like he was a very like a finance. I was obsessed with stocks. And like very interested in all that. And I would watch those types of videos. I would watch Grant Cardone videos. I'd watch all sorts of stuff that would kind of keep me in that loop, in the real estate loop, in the business loop, in the stock market loop. I had obsessions with just even just starting my own online business. That was something, a goal of mine that I wanted to do. But now I'm where I am now, and I have my own new obsessions. But yeah, it was just you live life it's in school isn't everything, and that's the mindset you have to go into it with it. Like a lot of kids in school would do school things, they would be in extracurricular activities, they would do all sorts of stuff. Me, I was obviously I had I had fun in high school. I at least tried to, but I always knew that look, I gotta pick up my game here. Everyone else, I want bigger goals than everyone else. I want bigger things. So I always knew that that was something I needed to work on even while I was in high school. So, you know, it just is. It
Carter,
was all about everything that was around me and the mindset that I had.
this is brilliant because sometimes people are really quiet about their obsessions. Something in our environment sometimes tells us, like, don't let people know how obsessed you are about this thing because it's weird, because other people aren't talking about it, right? But
Mhm.
what I love about what you just said is that maybe when you're in high school, you don't have the money or even the time to go out and get a mentor and be in the spaces with other people who are not only obsessed, but being successful with the things that you're interested in. What I love about what you shared with us is that YouTube was the vehicle that you used to go and sit with somebody like Grant Cardone, who is teaching and sharing about the success that they're making in that other name in finance and learning about stocks. And I just want to point out that maybe you didn't intend for it to have this result, but it sounds like for a lot of kids, high school is consuming, right? It takes up about 7.5 hours every day. And then if you do the extracurricular stuff, it ends up being all of your waking hours of the day. But you were able to maintain your obsession. You were able to keep fueling your energy and your interest in this thing that you wanted to build toward by finding a space and places where you could continue to learn and be engaged and not only build up your interest, but your knowledge ahead of time. I think that it obviously, even when you weren't yet studying for the exam, like all of the time that you spent learning from those smart guys who were already doing it, it probably just like preloaded your brain with enough context that it made you so successful. And
Hmm.
there's like firm research on how much better you do in life with testing and qualifying for things when you've got like a lot of knowledge, just regular knowledge in your brain about it. So kudos to you for just listening to your gut and being okay with doing the obsessed thing that maybe wasn't so common because it sounds like it's paid off. You've got like better than a great start in your business already, which makes me want to ask you, like shifting for just a couple questions to the business focus, if we could do that. You've been doing it for a short time. You're in real estate, you're in your office. Like, let's just give props to the guy who came to meet us for this call in his office at Young Adultness. I'm loving it. Could you share with the listeners what is your most proud accomplishment so far since you've been in business as a real estate agent for this short time?
My most proud accomplishment, oh wow. That's a good question. See, I think right now, um, it's just doing what I do and getting up every day and not really missing any beats when I get hit. You know what I mean? So obviously being this early and young into the business, it's tough. There's a lot that I don't know. There's a lot that I don't know that I don't know.
Yeah.
Which if that made even any sense. But there's I think I know something and then it turns out that I don't and I keep getting hit and my proudest accomplishment would just to be keep going and I keep
Sticking
doing
in
that.
the
I haven't
game.
stopped. I've been getting hit and I just keep going. And every time I do it, I want a bigger goal. I set my goals higher because it just makes me more angry and it just makes me want it more. So that's probably my proudest goal would be just keeping going and not missing any beats, no matter how hard the situation gets, no matter how stressful or overwhelming it gets, and really just trying to diversify what I do, but also at the same time being so locked in on what I am doing that it's zero focused and there's nothing else that matters at the
So
moment.
I'm gonna just like turn my eyes to Simon for just a second and say, like, how crazy is this? Because this kid did not say that his proudest accomplishment was that time when he sold the house or the building and he made X amount of money. He said the thing that he's most proud of is that he doesn't even let himself stop. He's not entertaining. Like if something doesn't go well and he gets mad because he got hit, he uses that got mad to go back at it. Like, if is that crazy or what? Like, I
This
love it.
is this is just literally a masterclass in being unstoppable. Um,
100%.
yeah, yeah. You know, the right back from when you started talking about you know, the whole amazing story which you told us about being in the education system and, you know, wanting to go, thinking about going that regular route and that regular route
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
you know, earning money like a like a normal person, having a normal job. And, you know, saving your money and then being able to kind of invest in real estate and then doing that massive course correct of just kind of stepping outside of the education system and thinking, well, actually, maybe that's a little bit too slow. Maybe that's just like a little bit too slow a route for me. I want to just go for it, you know, and you just kind of taking off the shackles, you know, just breaking the chains and just going for it, not even knowing what that path is going to look like or you know what you're going to come up against. That's just like such a massive move. And then moving into that lane, and then like you're saying, just turning up every day. You know, I have such respect, you know, for that kind of attitude. Probably because, you know, it's something that lacked a lot in my life, you know, going through and hearing stories of even, you know, salesmen, you know, going from door to door and just getting, you know, punched in the face and shouted at and, you know, but just carrying on going and making the sales and moving forward and, you know, making them, you know, there's that understanding and realizing that there's so much to know, but just turning up every day, you know, with that kind of attitude. Yeah, like I say, it's just an absolute inspiration and a masterclass in being unstoppable.
Yeah. I want to ask you one more question because if we could go on, we normally
We
keep our show.
could, I could sit here all day and talk to
So
Catherine. This
serious,
is this is
Carter. So I'm going to
so
try to
great.
make a mashup of like really five more questions that I have. So I promise you it's going to be an awful question. And whatever you say, I'll be so happy. I'm thinking about, we understand like what you're doing and when you started doing it, but we didn't really talk a whole lot about why. So I'm kind of curious, like, what's the big picture for you? Why are you wanting to go this kind of path? Like, what's the big thing that you're after? And if I could like get you to kind of throw in there, like as extra sauce, maybe some gravy on the top, we haven't really talked about what your actual goals are. I love that you told me that, like, I'm just going to keep going. I'm not going to stop. I'm going to persist. I'll be unstoppable. But if you don't mind letting us in, like maybe you could
Hmm.
just give us a little bit of a tease of what's something specific that you're working toward. And I don't care if it's impossible. Like, I don't even know yet how I'm going to do this. I would
Hmm.
love to hear a little bit of a peek of a real goal you have, any kind of goal that you're working on. Because I bet some of the folks who are listening that are like, wow, I've never even thought about doing something out of the ordinary, but now I'm encouraged because of Carter's story. And maybe I
Hmm.
want one idea that I had a while ago. Maybe you could just share a little bit of what it's like, right? Like, what are
Hmm.
you for? How's it going right now? What's something you're working toward? And man, I'm
Well,
you ahead of time it was going to be a bad question. So good luck making something out of that. But
Well, so I mean, to answer the first part of that question, which is the
yeah,
why, would be I've always had this drive to be something significant and be something bigger than just what most people would expect of me, and what most people would just expect of just the regular person. I truly believe that I will be exceptional. I will do big things that people won't forget, and that will be, bigger than what most people could imagine and possibly fathom. I want everybody in my life to make sure that they will be taken care of. I want to be able to do a lot of good, and I believe that when I build something big and successful, I'll be able to help a lot of people do not only the same thing, but I'm going to be able to help other people in other realms and other areas. I'll be able to, you know, get, make the world and make the people around me a better place. I want to make sure that everyone around me is taken care of. I think I already said that, but I want to every aspect of my life, I want to be where I want it. So everything I've ever wanted, I want to be able to have. I don't want to have to look at something, say I want that, but I can't have it. Um, so that's the why, is because everything I want to just chase after everything that I want. That's it. That's literally it. I want everyone around me to be able to do the same thing. I want to build myself stronger as well as all the people around me that build with me and help me build. To answer your question on the what my goals actually are, well, I have a lot and I have some big ones. But I don't even ever really set a cap on where my goals are, because I know that I'm only capping myself on where how big I think. So if I think to a certain point, it's going to take me my whole life to get to that point. You know what I mean? If I expect myself by the time I'm age 65 to maybe have, maybe be a millionaire, it'll take me till I'm 65 to be a millionaire, because I'm going to take the 65 at being a millionaire route. But if I look at it, well, I want to be, you know, in my 30s or 40s, and I want to be flying on private jets, on my own private jets and my own yachts, and I want to have, all these things. I want to have buildings. I want to have, high-end resorts. I want to have all these big things. I need to be looking at it from a different angle. And those are my goals. So it's a huge goal of mine that I've always had, is to have my own, and I know this might sound like, like, oh, he's only in it for the money. No, it's not. It's just a symbol of how, of what I can do and what I can accomplish if I can accomplish this thing. And it's I want to have my own jet. That's a thing that I want, and I know I'll have. I want my last name painted on the tail wing, because I want people to know that I did it and it's not rented. I know that sounds like too much, like, oh, he's in it for the money, but I'm
yeah,
not.
but it's
You know
real.
what I mean? It's a symbol of what you can accomplish, and it's a symbol of, if you don't stop, it can happen, and I know it's possible. And it's just and it's the doubt of everyone else, like, oh, you think you'll own your own jet? Yes, I do. You know what I mean? And I'll be like, watch me, and then I'll put my last name on it. Um, so that's a goal of mine. I want to own my own apartment complexes, luxury apartment complexes. I don't want to be a slumlord. I want to own luxury apartment complexes. I want to own commercial and industrial real estate. I want to own high-end resorts, on the beach. Yeah, and I want there's big things that I want, but ultimately I want to build a name for myself. Um, Publicly, where I can, really help people. I want to be a well-known person in the public space. I want to be, I truly believe I'll be a big name. I think there's going to be people, everyday people will know my name. And I'll be able to help people build their businesses, build success, but also in other realms and other areas, not just business and monetary success, but also other areas of life. I think I can be one day I think I will be an inspiration to people, because me starting young and documenting it while I'm young, doing this, where right now I'm not where I want to be. I'm not where probably anybody would want to be, because I'm just locked in nothing else. And then showing, right, fresh out of high school, and then showing where I'm going to be. I think it's going to be a good story worth telling. Um, Potentially in a book someday, maybe. And I think we'll go from there. But I want to be an inspiration to people someday, and I want to be able to provide valuable service and be a valuable resource to everyday people, and I want to be accessible to those people. I truly believe that I can help and will be able to help a lot of people one day. But first, I got to be able to figure it out for myself so I know what knowledge I'll be passing on. So,
Carter, you are an inspiration. You are accessible. It was very easy to get in touch with you. You are already making an impact, right? Like this is your first time being featured live, and hey, you're here, you're already doing it. I love that you can put your finger on that space in the future where you own the jet, you have the yachts, you are a household name, and you're not a greedy household name or a selfish household name or a taking advantage of the little people household name. You are a doing so much good household name. I like that you are aware that sometimes in people's minds, having big goals and dreaming of phenomenal things gets associated somehow with some kind of negativity that makes you like a bad person. And you're just saying, no, I want more so that I can do more good and help more people and give the people around me, all of the people around me, access to that. I think that's not only honorable, but a very powerful mission that you have for yourself. And then I'll say one more thing before I leave. Like, I don't know. I'm going to just turn it over to Simon because otherwise it'll be, an hour from now, we could just keep going around. One other thing that you said that I think is so important, and somehow at the beginning of your career, you understand that the biggest priority that you have is to get yourself together, to be the best that you can, to show up in the best way that you can, so that you can bring that to all of this that you want to do. I think that self-leadership is so important. And you're so humble, Carter, because the way you speak about yourself, you're not doing it yet. You're not there yet. One day you'll be there. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure when you were 5, you already had it. And it's just growing. It's growing. Now you're the young adult version of your most successful self, and you're going to keep expanding and doing wonderful things. But my goodness, Simon, if you don't take this from me, I'm probably going to let if you don't take it, Simon.
I'm taking it. Oh, yeah, throw me the ball. Throw me the ball. Wow. Listen, guys, we've touched on this before, and in fact, when we spoke to Naomi a few weeks back, um, even hearing Carter just then, it was actually making me a bit emotional, because when did you get that, guys? When Carter was talking about, his dreams and his goals there. Well, sorry, first off, I loved that of just completely just taking the lid off your goals. I've just, oh, actually, if I want to be a millionaire, then that's all I'm going to be. So, why have that goal?
mhm.
Just taking the lid off your goals and just shooting for the stars. That's such an inspiring way of of thinking about goals and motivating yourself for the future. But did you get that, guys? Did you get when Carter was talking there were parts of that where if you'd have taken that out of context, you could possibly have thought or heard Carter just being very selfish, wanting this, wanting that, wanting the jet, wanting the luxury resorts. I caught the S on the end there. It wasn't just like a luxury resort. Did you get that, Mo? It wasn't, I want a luxury resort. It was
And
a
he has
luxury
yachts too. They're also
luxury
yachts.
resorts, plural. And but what I very clearly heard, and what ties it very beautifully into what Naomi was talking a few weeks back, was that when he was talking about the why was much bigger than him, was much bigger than me just getting lots of money, for me, the Mr. Burns. It was about the people around him. It was about, looking after, well, first of all himself, but being able to then look after others. And in the end, being an inspiration and a leader to inspire other people. That's that's, you know, Carter didn't talk about this at any point, but I would imagine that that is a main motivator for him when he's turning up every day, when he's getting punched in the face and and failing and learning. That inspiration that keeps us going, that keeps our drive. That, if you sliced Carter open right now, you wouldn't be able to find any of this stuff. You wouldn't be able to see anything inside him about his hopes, his dreams, what he wants for other people and how he wants to be an inspiration. It's a very personal thing to him, but look what he's doing. He's out there and he's taking the action. He's taking those steps towards creating the future that he wants to create and being that inspiration to other people. So yeah, absolute kudos to you, Carter. Thank you so much for turning up today and just giving us this masterclass.
Of course.
What
I
what we usually do on the show, and you might actually be able to help me with this, Carter, is we usually just push a challenge out there for our listeners for this next
mhm.
week. Now, Mo and I had a little challenge, a little talk about this before you actually came on with us. So you didn't hear anything about what we were thinking about, but even when we were talking about it, it kind of changed a few times. But yeah, I'm going to put this over to you, Carter, and um, because you seem to be a person who, knows how to kind of break it down, how to break down these steps and, take action. And
mhm,
the challenge that we were going to have was going to be along those kind of lines
mhm.
of, just thinking about something that you're really passionate about, which is perhaps bigger than yourself, to give yourself inspiration. It could be anything. It could be about doing something for the environment. It could be doing something for your own school, for a charity, even. Um, it could be, a health challenge that you have, where you actually want to yeah, take part in a race or do something, and you could be an inspiration for something, for somebody else. But yeah, I'm going to put it over to you, Carter. How can we challenge people this week and give them a simple, a simple next step that they can take, with regards to what's their obsession at the moment, or the thing that they're thinking about.
Well, so the first thing I want people to do, is be able to just imagine what the perfect outcome would be. So what does that look like? Don't limit yourself based upon what you think is quote unquote possible,
Mhm.
because in a world where almost anything is possible, just think as big as you can think. That's
Mhm.
where I want you to be. And
Mhm.
I want you to think about it so obsessively where you close your eyes and you can see yourself in that lifestyle, where you literally imagine yourself in that position, right? Close your eyes. What does that version of myself do? What do I look like? What do I say? How do I react to certain situations? What is that? And then work on becoming that person, like working backwards. Working backwards is a big thing. So you should be able to be so obsessed on what your goal is, whatever it is. In my situation, it's the success of my own personal business and then what I can do with that going forward. But for other people, like you said, it might be some sort of fitness goal or, whatever it is. Close your eyes and you should be able to see yourself, like literally imagine it. It should be almost hyper realistic where I mean, eventually you want to not be able to you want your brain to almost be in that reality, right? Like, so my brain is in the reality of that I'm already successful at some point in time in the future. I just need to get like the actual reality. I need to get myself there. But my brain's already there. I can see what it looks like. I know what my dream house looks like. I know what all my like everything looks like. I know it all. I can plan it out. And I try to do my very best in predicting that. And then I work backwards. So don't limit yourself based upon what you believe is possible, because anything is possible. And if you set that bar and you set that goal, it's going to be much harder to get past it. And it's very rare that you actually will. Set it as high as you can and take the actions and the course of actions that it would require for you to get there. Think as big as you possibly can. Don't sell yourself short. That's the biggest thing. Become so obsessed with it that you can close your eyes and that you can literally picture yourself in that situation. And then the next thing, the course of action that I want people to take, and the actual takeaway from this, is the most important thing that you can do, and that's just take action. That's it. Work backwards, figure out, all right, what does this look like all the way back to where you are now? So what does each step along the way look like from, all right, I want to be in this situation, sitting in this chair, and I'm currently sitting in this chair. How do I get all these steps across the board, right? What does that look like? Work backwards from the point, from the end point. You're working backwards in the maze. It's a lot easier to get through the maze when you work backwards. So figure out what step you need to take now and just start taking action. That's it. Ruthlessly, just take action. That's it. That's the biggest step. So whatever my takeaway for what people need to do today is sit down, plan out, what does my life look like in my absolute dream situation, right? Don't limit yourself based on possibilities or probabilities or whatever. Just figure out what that looks like, then work backwards on what steps it takes to get there, and then start. That's it. What do I need to do first? That's the very first
Beautiful.
thing that you need to do. So that's
Wow.
that's what that's what it is. And now I know I'm going to get off here. I'm going to be like, "Oh crap, I should have said that. I should have said this." Maybe I'll be back on here one day in the next couple of years and it'll be even better. So
Yeah,
I'll be able to say
exactly.
more. That it's going to
We
sound even more
we are
inspirational to
No,
people.
maybe it's done. It's already decided.
it's done. It's done.
Definitely
Yeah.
decided. We're gonna have
Look,
enough.
you're exactly the same as me, Mo. We're just
Yeah,
gonna
yeah. I'm like
rubbing
chomping
our
at the
hands
bit over
together.
here.
Like, this is just absolute gold. So
That's a perfect challenge.
just
A
before I hand over
perfect
to you, Minnie,
framework.
because
Yeah.
I'll hand over to you to just tie it all together and just finish up. So just to be clear, guys, what a challenge. This is a great one for this week. And so do exactly what Carter was telling us there. Thinking back from the greatest version that you can possibly imagine of your life and taking the next step, no matter how small. This is what it's about, guys. We don't get there magically by one massive leap. It's about putting one foot in front of the other, and you can get there, guys. So it's about taking that next step. We'll put it on the inspiration station. You can tell us how you're getting on, and we want you to just take that next step. It could be finding something to follow on YouTube instead of, looking at, cats falling off sofas or whatever it is. Actually going on and finding some of this inspirational material, which Carter went on and found to get himself inspired and get his juices flowing towards working towards his goals. It could be as simple as that. Going on and finding your next inspirational YouTube video, which is in alignment with your obsession. So yeah, I'm going to hand over to you, Mo, because
So good.
that's a
I
great
love
challenge.
that is a perfect challenge. And I love when you call this a masterclass in the beginning, because it doesn't matter the age. A very young person, as in a child, a young adult like Carter, or someone as aged as you and I, right? This conversation is applicable for any age. And I just want to wrap us up by saying to people, guys, listen. Sometimes you hear obsession framed in a bad light. And yes, there are obsessions that are bad, but that's not what we've been talking about today. We're talking about the kind of obsession, the kind of focus, the kind of interest that literally has the power to bring you to something big, expansive, and beautiful. And I want to encourage everyone to fuel your great obsession. Absolutely plug into whatever positive sources you can find, if they happen to be on YouTube or wherever else, so that you can learn and be encouraged and inspired even more with that thing. And just like Carter said, envision yourself there, accomplishing whatever it is that you dream, and walk yourself back to what can I do now to start moving in the direction of that focus?
The next
Because
step.
that is your superpower. You guys know how much Simon and I believe that you are bold, brave, and unstoppable. And we've recruited Carter. He's now on the team with us.
He's in the team.
You got this, guys. And we are so grateful that you listened in today. And Carter, I can't say thank you enough for coming to join us. This was phenomenal. So fantastic. Thank
An
you.
inspiration. Watch out for this name.
Thanks for having me on. This was exciting. I could have probably gone another hour here, but you know, I have
You're a busy man.
an appointment at 1 and I gotta, yeah. I'm just
Guys, so Carter's got to go because traffic is a little crazy over there. We don't want him late for his next appointment. That is so super fantastic, Carter. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, have a great week, guys.